Update 74. A few videos ago, I received a comment from Cirrus asking about my editing style. So I gave it some thought and realized I have about 6 steps when it comes to editing. First thing that I do is I let it sit. I don't touch it for a while so that I can kind of regrow a fresh set of eyes when I look at it for the second time. I typically, on the second pass, notice so many very obvious things that I would change and can easily spot pacing mistakes, and letting it sit, it's usually a few months. And in that time, I'm usually writing something else and getting lost in it and forgetting about the thing that I wrote. Once those few months or however long is up, and I'll reread it, and I'll try not to stop when I'm rereading it. I'll just keep reading and writing down everything that comes to mind, all the questions that I have. These will bring up it's usually continuity. It's like, what happened to this? Why isn't he mentioning this? Why aren't they in pain from that wound that you mentioned earlier? Why haven't we seen this character in this long? Wouldn't they have acted differently based on their background? The biggest example I can show is I wrote the whole book of Fraser, then left it for a little bit and went back to the first chapters and started reading it. And one of the first questions I had was, they're near the equator. Where is all the rain? And I realized the entire book doesn't have a single instance of any rainfall. That would change the story so much. Characters would look for shelter in different places. They would be carrying different types of gear, would encounter different things in the rain. So that's why it's important to let it sit. Those two first steps, letting it sit and then reading it and asking questions, really do go hand in hand. Once I've written down all the questions, I go back to answering all the questions, usually in the form of rewriting. Sometimes I need to add extra things, and so I'll just free write like a few paragraphs. Be warned, if you're picky, you might find yourself rewriting huge chunks of books. Once you've finished that, it's time to omit 10% of your words, at least. I think I've told this story before, but Stephen King received a letter one time from a magazine that he had submitted one of his short stories to. Typically, you don't get feedback. Usually, they'll just tell you, sorry, we don't need this. Bye. Some feedback that he got that changed the way he wrote, and it changed the way he wrote permanently. What they said was, remember that the final draft is equal to the first draft minus 10% of the words. Always take out 10% of the words, no matter how concise you are. This will tighten your story, trim all the fat off of it, and make it much more interesting. It will also help you with your wordplay. You'll figure out how to use one particular word that can take the place of 5 words. So it expands your vocabulary and keeps your mind fresh. I mean, kind of building on that last rule, it will make you more clever with the way you use words, because you want to be able to say the same thing different ways, and cleverly at that. And omitting 10% of the words is always a nice challenge, because it does show you just how much you can get away with, even without that 10% that you thought you needed. You're taking away 10% of the words, but you're keeping 100% of the story. The 5th thing that I do requires no work from your end. You just give it to some of your friends or people that you might think would read it. You can make it a paid thing. You can go on Fiverr or any of those freelance websites and ask people to beta read short stories. Novels get pricey, asking people to read your entire novel and offer feedback. Find people to offer feedback for you. And then the last thing you do is free write and add things based off of people's feedback. You need to remember the 8th rule of writing. A reader's opinion isn't gospel. I was messing around with some drawings. Drew some creepy dudes. I always thought masquerade masks and harlequin masks were pretty cool, creepy things. 2,600 words means I've written 1,000 since then. We'll add 1,000 right there. 3 pancakes this morning. This has been update 74. 75 will be the recap.